This episode of the MOC Squad was filmed in front of a live, members-only audience. Greetings, imagination connoisseurs, and greetings, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett.
Well, it's good to be here again for another one of our great member chats, our bi-weekly, twice a month, not bi-monthly.
Yep.
Extravaganzas, talking to members of the channel. Sorry, we're starting a little late today, but better late than never. That's what I always say.
That's right. So we got to. I was running from the shower, realizing it was. Oh my gosh! It's already time to be online. So, but have you had a good week, Rob?
Yeah, it's been a good week. A lot of productive work stuff outside of YouTube, but doing some good YouTube streams. I've got a good one coming up where I'm going to rant and rail on Amazon's guidelines for what stories they want to tell. It's very depressing. Very depressing.
I also saw you were on 50 Shades of Tay stream recently.
Yeah, he was after me to do an interview for like 2 years, and finally we sat down and did it. It was good. He had some great questions, and so that was fun to do.
All right.
Enjoyed it.
Well, to let our membership know, this is the members only chat. Remember, check your messages, and you'll be able to see in your YouTube messages the link for the Zoom chat if you want to join us live on Zoom. If you want to post a question, when you get into the Zoom chat, you'll get a chance to raise your hand. We usually do about between 5 and 7 minutes, depending on the timing here. So
yes,
we'll give you some time with Rob to share your comments and questions, and then we'll go from there. And I keep getting problems with my second monitor here. Let me see if I can get it. This was part of the technical issues we were having earlier today, and now it just seems to kind of be going off and on. So apologies if there's any technical glitches there, but let's go ahead and let our members in, shall we? Here we go.
I love this part.
And here they are coming in, cascading into our view. And yes, as you come in, I can see people raising your hands. We'll take you in the order that you appear here. If there are any issues with that, just send me a private message through the Zoom chat there, and we'll try to accommodate as best as possible. And let me go ahead and get everything set up here so Rob is on screen.
Oh, no.
Well, we got two Marcos coming in two different. We had some duplicates coming in. I don't know. Okay, so let's go ahead and add where is Rob? There you are.
With Waldo.
Boom. There. Yeah, almost. All right. So we got Rob aboard here, and let's see. Who do we have first up online here? We've got Anthony Plowden is the first one to join us here. So let's go ahead and let Anthony in. Anthony, you should be able to unmute now.
Hey.
What's up, man?
Hey, what's up, Rob? How you doing?
I'm doing well, and how about yourself?
Good to see you. First of all, it's been a while since I've been on, so I wanted to ask you any update on Psycho Cop 2 yet, the DVD? Nothing at all?
I'm trying. I keep going. I keep going. It's hard to find.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but one day I'm going to get it, and I'm going to have you sign it.
I'll be more than happy to sign it.
You're going to sign it.
Yes.
But I just love that there's somebody in the world that wants me to have Psycho Cop 2 as much as you do.
Yes, I do.
Because I think it's a moral imperative.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
and I will put it on the shelf where you can see it.
Okay, so
somewhere.
Whenever I watch you on Robservations or Midnight Musings, I'll be able to say
you'll see Psycho Cop and Psycho Cop 2 and know that you did this to me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. My question is about James Gunn and the upcoming Superman the movie. Do you think, and then since you know somewhat about James Gunn and his thought process and where he's could potentially be going with this.
Yes.
I really want him to take the practical route, like sort of like the Batman films that Christopher Nolan did, where they were filmed like on location and they filmed it in Chicago. And even with the Batman movie, to where they actually went over to the UK and filmed like on location. If you could look into your crystal ball, do you think that James Gunn is going to take the practical on location route, or is he going to primarily this film and these films will be filmed on sets and things? Because I really hate when they're filmed on sets, but do you think that's the route that he's going to go?
Dude, I think that is a fantastic question. And, you know, I'm always banging on about verisimilitude. And you cannot duplicate the look of anything that's shot on location, at least right now.
Right.
And like you said, Christopher Nolan is a big fan of that. That's why I think his Batman movies feel the way they feel, is because you know that they're not shot on sets. And so, you know, when he goes, even when he would do things like change the Chicago skyline and add buildings or seeing bridges blown up, he's still using a real plate of Chicago. You know, it's not like an entirely CG, and we feel it because we all live in the real world. And I think here's what I would think. In Richard Donner's Superman the movie, they filmed the Smallville stuff in Alberta in Canada. And there's the scene after Jonathan Kent dies, and you have Cal and you have his grandma, well, his mom, in the field, and you see there's an incredible camera move around them, and it rises up, and you see the beautiful cornfield, or wheat field, and you hear the rising John Williams score. I think that scene is that the feeling of that scene, I think, is at the very crux of what James Gunn wants to do with Superman. Now, I've not spoken to him about this. I haven't talked to him in years, but you know, I used to see him all the time at various parties and things after we worked together 20 years ago, actually longer than that, 30 years ago. No, it's about 20 years ago. But I think that's what he's going for. I think as a fan of 80s DC comics, I think one of the and this is just a theory I have, he's looking to the post Crisis on Infinite Earths rebuilding of DC, when George Perez went back to Wonder Woman and was writing it and leaned heavily into the mythology of it all. I think he's looking at John Byrne's Superman, when John Byrne sort of depowered Superman, not completely depowered him, but made him more relatable. And there was a lot of superhero cameos in that, but there was it brought the wacky DC universe sort of back down to earth, because look, he's got a lot of cameos set up. I mean, Guy Gardner's going to be in this.
Right.
So I think what he wants to do is he's got to go in an entirely different direction than we've seen the Nolan verse, the Snyder verse, any of that stuff. And I think what he's looking for is either the feel of post-crisis DC or something like the limited series, a Superman for All Seasons, that just came out as an absolute edition months ago. So that's what I think he's going for. And it's essential that he's shooting in real situations. I mean, like even when Bryan Singer made Superman Returns, he would go into downtown Sydney, like the exterior of the hospital, or they actually built the front of the Daily Planet that was outside between two sound stages. And I think it gives a feel that Superman needs. And a lot of, like, you know, Metropolis, when Richard Donner made Superman, sure, there was a lot of stuff shot on sets in London, but then they were on the streets of New York, you know, and you saw that stuff, and it adds something that you cannot recreate on backlots and on sets with volume and all the technology that we have today. And I think it's become a problem for like one of the things about George Lucas's Star Wars prequels is so little of it was actually shot on location. And when they would go to Lake Como in Italy or something, it would stand out because it was beautiful. Whereas the original Star Wars movies, they went to Tunisia, or they went to Norway and shot on a glacier, or they went to the forests of Northern California or Yuma, Arizona. You know, a lot of that stuff was shot practically on real locations, and you could feel it.
Right.
You know, you
Right.
knew when they were on Jabba's sail barge that they were outside in a desert, you know, and that's why when it was intercut with stupid shots like R2 and 3PO going face first into the sand, being picked up by magnets, I'm like, that's a backdrop.
Yeah.
It looked
Yeah.
bad. So I'm hoping this Superman movie, I think that it's going to be a total departure from what we've seen. I think we're going to get it's going to feel like a classical, almost a period piece, maybe. So I don't expect that there's going to be a lot of colloquial humor in it, like humor of today, of now. I think it's going to be much more of a classical film. And I think they, by necessity, because I think also what they want to do is when they make Swamp Thing, if James Mangold and Dean does Swamp Thing, they're going to want to give it a classical feel, like a timeless quality. Like in a way, maybe a little bit out of time. So it's a combination of all periods of Americana in Superman. Kind of like, I mean, I'm not saying it's at all like Watchmen, because people are going, oh, Zack Snyder. I'm not saying that. But when you read the Watchmen comic, it's supposed to take place in 1985, but there's like blimps, dirigibles floating through the air, and there's airships, and there's all kinds of things. It's kind of it's not our world. It's kind of slightly removed from our world. Now, I don't know if he's going to do that, where you see 1940s design with modern technology or something. But I think he's got to do something where it's truly going to be its own universe. Maybe. I could be totally wrong about that. But I would imagine that just going back and looking at the DC comics, maybe he'll do that. Because he wants it. I think he wants it to feel timeless and eternal. So it's going to seem like it's our world, but just ever slightly removed.
Okay.
I think. I don't know. I mean, but I would just imagine, because if he does something that's too close to what's been done before, it's not going to work. It has to be different from Marvel, and it has to be different from DC and what they were already doing. Mm-hmm. And so, again, I trust him, because I think he knows that. I mean, yeah, we've been getting James Gunn's personal sensibility from Super and Slither, even the way he wrote Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead and his Scooby-Doo and all his Guardians of the Galaxy movies were very much a reflection of James Gunn. But I think now James Gunn knows he's working in a different mode, and I think he's capable of bringing something that is not as much James Gunn, but is more classic American superhero or global superhero. I think he's got to do that to make this work. And I think no filmmaker in the modern age has ever had more riding on this than he does, because the superhero movie is either going to continue at Warner Brothers, or it's going to be dead because of this. So what he does is supposed to open up a doorway that is going to allow for a bunch of other movies to be made. And now the superhero movie is on life support. You know, I watched the Marvels yesterday. Why did I watch the Marvels yesterday? I don't know. But I was watching it. I was watching because it was on Disney Plus, and I'm looking at this movie, and I did not like the Marvels. And it's not that it's a bad movie, but I felt like if you compare and contrast the Marvels to Infinity War, for instance, it's night and day. And I'm like, how did the Marvel universe in such a short period of time go from Infinity War and Endgame to this? It was almost like a TV movie. I mean, the opening scene when they go down to that planet and Dar-Benn finds the Bindle or whatever. I keep saying Bindle. That's not the same thing. It's like, it looks like it's the set from Superman 2 when they're on the moon. That's just not good. I don't know. I hope Superman's good, man. Fingers crossed, because don't you want it to be great?
Yep.
Oh, we can't.
Sorry. So thanks, Anthony. Time
Sorry, I
was up,
yammered away.
I'm sorry. I'm having all sorts of difficulties with my second monitor here, so things are going to look a little different from normal. Don't know why my second monitor is not cooperating. Also impacts my ability to show the timer on screen, so apologies for that.
Oh, don't worry.
Do my best to keep track of time. It just the monitor setup is not working correctly. So, but thanks to Anthony, and let's go ahead and go to our next question or comment from Call Me Ish. Welcome, Ish. Go ahead and go to our next.
What's up, man?
Am I here yet?
We can hear you.
Can
We
you hear me?
cannot see you.
Let's see. I needed a moment.
What's up, man?
To Roberto. Let me see.
In a world. You know Ish is in the kitchen baking those cookies right now. I can tell.
Sorry, Ish. I'll go ahead and have somebody else step in, and you can come in later. I just saw your note. Sorry about that.
Justin Toner.
Here we go. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm actually doing pretty good, Rob.
That's good.
Yep. So, did you finally get this wonderful
Fuck no.
thing yet?
No.
No.
Amazon's telling me like February 20th.
I tell you, I'm glad I went to Barnes and Noble because, like,
And you got it on sale.
they had the 50% off Arrow sale going on.
See, if I had bought it from Barnes and Noble at the sale, I would have it by now.
Yeah, I was like, I got it like 2 days. I got it like the day after the release date. They mailed it.
Now, is that the box set? Is that both?
No,
So
this is just. I just got Conan. I didn't want this for right away.
Wow. So Conan, see, you know what? If I had known it came in a regular Arrow box like that, like a slipcase, I would have bought that.
Yeah.
Because that poster art's some of my favorite poster art in the history of cinema.
Yeah, so we'll show this off real quick. So yeah, it's like you got the nice booklet, which is just awesome. Like them. Arrow and Vinegar Syndrome are really good with when booklets.
Oh, they're I can't. And so is Second Sight, by the way. Shout out to Second Sight.
Then you got the poster here.
Yeah.
And then inside is the it's got the lobby cards inside the disc case. So I'll pull that out real quick. But yeah, it's like I was like, this is just wonderful. And the movie looks fantastic.
And I don't have it.
I
mean, that was a Grail disc. That in terms of physical media, that's something. Yeah, man. Come on.
Yeah, these are always fun when they throw these in.
They
did this with Dune.
I find this fascinating. That how is this a Universal movie, and they license it out to Arrow?
Yeah, I know. This is a big title.
It's a huge title that people have been waiting for, and they're selling out. Arrow is selling out of the title, and it's like I don't understand. I really don't understand between all of the studios like Paramount. I just was getting from Kino Lorber, they sent me the 4K of Gunfight at the OK Corral. Burt Lancaster, nice. Kirk Douglas, nice. John Sturges directed it. Now I know it's a Paramount movie, and I'm sure at Paramount, whoever was looking, no one's ever heard of Gunfight at the OK Corral. No one understands. It's about the people that we saw in Tombstone, or we saw in the Star Trek episode Spectre of the Gun.
Right.
It's the Clantons and the Earps, and it's Kurt Russell and Burt Lang. Do you know what's really sad? If you were to ask, not to bag on younger people, but other than Roberto Suarez's son, I don't think there's probably anybody that you could go, have you ever heard of Burt Lancaster or Kirk Douglas? That they would know who those actors were.
I'd be impressed if they did.
It's such a weird thing that somehow when home video came out, we would watch anything and everything. And now, there's no interest. I mean, I always say that Half-Life, pop culture has a half-life of 20 years. But I mean, I just don't understand why Universal, and this is not to
I think Arrow just got a really good deal where it's just like,
but here's the thing, why would a studio who has all these assets, and look, Arrow has been doing a great job with Universal titles, great job with Waterworld, a great job with Carlito's Way, these big box sets with multiple cuts.
Flash Gordon 4K was great.
Flash Gordon, and that goes back years, and Flash Gordon was first Studio Canal, then that became an Arrow title. But yeah, I mean, they've been doing
the Lynch Dune. I got the big Lynch Dune one. That's a fantastic set.
It's a great set. I mean, they've been doing, although it doesn't have Ballyhoo's documentary on it, which is on the the play on title. But I just don't get it. I mean, I don't understand. Like all these studios are licensing out their lesser known catalog titles to, which I guess is fine. They've just decided that we're not going to release physical media, and as long as we can get it, you know. But I don't understand.
At least Paramount is trying to release their own stuff and like some of their good titles, you know.
Well, but they are. They're going back and they'll do. Although I don't have Footloose in hand, but the reviews I've seen and the images I've seen are god awful. Like after they did a wonderful job with, I can't believe we're talking about Flashdance and Footloose, but they did an amazing job with Footloose. I mean, with Flashdance, it looks incredible. But to see the digital noise reduction on Footloose is just abhorrent.
That's why I'm waiting on the King Kong 76 4K. I want to see the reviews before I get that steelbook. It's like, because it's like, it may be good, it may be not. It's like, I hope they don't watch it. You know, it's like,
well, yeah, I mean, and the thing is, here's what's even scarier. I'm getting feedback from younger audiences that like the digitally scrubbed versions better.
Oh man, that's scary.
Well, it's because look, if you've grown up in if you were born in 1990, 34 years ago, you grew up with Pixar movies. And you grew up with
the film grain.
There is no film grain. And so when they see film grain, they're like, what's this? I posted a picture from Predator of Arnold's face, and there was somebody did a before and after. The first Predator disc was heavily DNR'd. And the reason people like it's really interesting. And here's my Rob Burnett theory of the modern audience member. They've all used filters on their faces when they take pictures of themselves. So if you look at something like this picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's on my X feed. You can see the lines in his face. You can see the sweat. You can see the
detail.
And all that detail. And they don't like that. You know, they're used to seeing filtered images where everyone looks perfect.
Yeah. And so, like, it broke my heart with the Planes, Trains, and Automobiles 4K. It's like the DNR it's like, everyone's like, what the F did they do?
Well, if you have that disc, and this is gonna be,
I'm not touching it.
It's gonna be a problem moving forward because as younger people get involved in the industry, and you're old, like I don't want to work when I do color timing on movies. I don't want to work. I would never want to work with a colorist that's younger than 40 years old. If you're color timing a film, no way. Because they crush the blacks too much. They don't use the detail in the frame. And this is not, maybe this is prejudicial, but it's like, unless you have worked in color grading, color timing, if you call it color timing, I want to work with you. If you call it color grading, maybe not so much. And I know that's a silly thing to say, but because the aesthetic is totally different. And what you're not doing is, the whole point should be to preserve the integrity of the image as it was captured. And nowadays, you know, you could then go, and I'll tell you where the demarcation point for me is. It's Lord of the Rings, because Lord of the Rings, they designed color grading software, not color timing software, but color grading software where they could use power windows and things and isolate people's eyes. And they were doing things like giving the elves a more ethereal look, shooting them at half speed, and doing all kinds of things. So they use color timing to make them look more ethereal and otherworldly, more elven. But that was a choice that was made by the filmmakers, and like Peter Jackson and his team, and they created their own software so they could do this for the film. And but nowadays they're the going back, and if you should never allow new color timers to restore old movies unless they're working with grizzled veterans. And that means we don't have very much time left to restore our film greats and make them palatable. Because when I see people on Twitter going, this image is better than this image, I'm like, I'm out. So
yeah, thanks.
What that says about me.
Well, I mean,
I'm yelling at clouds.
It happens to me with the when I come to a friend's house and the TV is set up with the motion blurring or whatever you call that, the smoothing, motion smoothing or whatnot. and people their TVs have been playing like that for years in their living room. And I'm like, oh my God.
Well, it's funny because everything looks like a soap opera.
Yep, everything looks like
because you're
a videotape.
And I understand also part of that comes along with gaming.
Mm-hmm.
You want a higher refresh rate, 60 frames is which I get. But to me, and again, it just goes to show you how important it is to educate people about these things, because unless you're taught about them, you're never going to know. Like it's the idea, and I think that's where we're at in our world today with everything. People's perception is so myopic that they can't see, they can't even recognize certain things, and they've been taught to see things that also sometimes aren't even there.
Yeah.
And they're seeing, which is weird, but that's the world we live in.
Looks like Ish is back, so we're going to go ahead and try to have him unmute now. Ish, are you able to join us?
Yes.
Sorry about that, Ish. I
okay.
had missed your message trying to fix my issue. So.
It's all right. It's all right. It happens. How you doing this week?
What's going on, man? Now you're back.
Yeah. Oh, nothing much. How are you guys doing this week?
Doing well. Getting ready for that. Getting ready to watch the Taylor Swift interrupting the Usher concert tomorrow.
Not even interested this year. I'm so like not interested. This is the worst. This Super Bowl has been the one that I'm just like I have no fight in this.
Not even, you don't even think the game will be good? I think the game will be good.
It's not that it's gonna be good. It's just I don't care. I literally don't care about either one of those teams. It's like I just don't care about. I can't.
Well, I'm from Seattle, so I hate the 49ers no matter what.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate San Francisco no matter what, and my Hawks aren't they didn't even make the playoffs this year. So,
and I don't like Kansas City because I'm a Raiders fan. So that just it's just I have no fight. I don't care. But anyways, I was gonna say the MCU is that I think the whole, if you notice, it's like the downcline in it started happening when Disney Plus came about. And
100%.
It forced them into put too much content out, and the quality just went to crap.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even WandaVision, which I liked, was not perfect. You could see, I think the whole addition of Evan Peters as Quicksilver, and they adding the Darkhold and all that stuff. I mean, they could have stuck to Wanda creating this false reality, but they added a lot of goofiness in it. I mean, you can't, when they injected the Darkhold and they injected the Supernatural, the MCU hadn't quite earned that yet, because the Supernatural is so, that's a whole different layer that they really hadn't delved into. Yeah. Because now if you're going to get into Blade, where have the vampires been?
That's what I said in our argument with John and stuff. What I was telling you is like, you have to almost kind of already just say that they're there.
I don't have a problem with,
and not say anything, and just like do it, because everybody's coming up with all these other fixes. And to me, for the general audience, like if my mom was to watch that, she'd be totally confused by doing that. But if you just tell her that, it's just a story that hasn't been told yet, she's fine with that.
Yeah, I think that's what they have to do. And like even the first Blade, the first Wesley Snipes Blade, I love how it opens, because you have Tracy Lords taking that guy to like this rave.
Yeah, I love Tracy Lords.
That whole scene is amazing. The blood rave and the sprinklers coming, it's blood. Yeah. And they had this underground secret society. Like, I totally believe that. I'll buy that. I can believe that. But they've given us Werewolf by Night and Man-Thing and the Darkhold, and they've already sort of sprinkled in this stuff. And I gotta know, my big question is, if you're a vampire and you're undead, did you get snapped by Thanos?
That's a good question.
I mean, Now, if you don't address that issue, because that goes into the whole cosmology of the supernatural.
Yeah.
If you're one of the undead, does that mean, even though you drink human blood, does that mean like in snapping humans away, what you've done is you've gotten rid of half of the resources that vampires need. That wasn't nice.
That's a good question.
So they won't address this, but this is my problem with where the MCU is right now. The first 23 movies in the Infinity Saga, ending with Spider-Man Far From Home, were all pretty well thought out. I mean, you've got all this different cosmology. You've got Asgardians, and you've got Dark Elves, and you've got Thanos, and you've got the Nova Corps, and you've got the Guardians of the Galaxy, and you've got the Celestials. You've got all this stuff, and it all fit together. I didn't ask myself, well, the Celestials. Well, after that, and like you said with Disney Plus, all this stuff went kerflooey. You suddenly you're posing all these questions that you're not answering, and you're leaving everybody with these lingering questions that just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger after every movie, to the point where, as I like to say, it's all gobbledygook now.
Yeah.
Like I want to know, when Thanos snapped, did the Egyptian gods that we met in Moon Knight, did they get snapped away? Or
there's a lot of unexplained stuff.
Yeah, and how does that work? Do those gods know that there's a celestial in the earth? And if not, why don't they know? Because don't they know about, and does our heaven and does our undead or whatever, does it, like, do the celestials know if there's an afterlife for us or what? Like, I need you guys to weigh in on this. And the problem is they don't know the answers. And I know they don't know the answers, because if they did, they would somehow address them in the text, and they don't. And so I'm looking at it going, I'm out. And it's because with Disney Plus, they had to do all this, and none of the Disney Plus shows, they've all been half-baked.
Yeah.
They're
all pretty, at some level, they're all disappointing.
Because, as that video that Nerdrotic made, he has that montage of all the writers talking about, well, they told us not to read the comics. Well, I don't need to know this, or well, I don't need to know that. But you kind of do. Or at least you have to go back and look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe as it exists, and you have to ask these questions. And that would be the first question I would ask about vampires and Blade. And clearly, the reason that movie hasn't gotten made is because no one's been able to write a good script. Yeah. And I'm like, how do you not? You could even look at the first Blade. And while that movie's not perfect and kind of has a stupid climax, it's still pretty awesome. Vampire world that they create in that movie, and the hierarchy and all this stuff, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting. I like it. I just the third movie just killed it.
Yeah, the third movie. Yeah, but the first two are totally. And you could do a combination of those two things. I mean, you put Mahershala Ali's voice at the end of Eternals.
Yeah.
And didn't you think about what you were? No. I mean, where's the Black Knight? What have you done? Who are in the Avengers right now?
There is no Avengers.
There are no Avengers.
The problem is that right now it's like in the first part of it, you had the whole Avengers group getting together, so that was more what that whole saga was built up. But this one, you're trying to connect it to the whole War Planet one. I don't know why my mind's drawing a blank right now.
Or Secret Wars.
For Secret Wars.
Battle World.
People. It's too many characters, and you need to start introducing those characters. So the world doesn't really need to fit. You just need to start putting those characters out and getting those characters so people notice them. So you can even do something like that, because that's such a big event. And if you only got 10 characters on each side, it doesn't work.
No, and that was true of Kang Dynasty. I recently reread the Kang Dynasty storyline just to catch up with it, which has everybody. And what I'm in the middle of right now, I bought the omnibus for Judgment Day, the Axe event, which was Avengers, X-Men, and Eternals, which I am loving. I'm like, this is awesome. And the Eternals basically just decide, we're going to kill all the mutants because they're deviants. Yeah. The mutation has gone too far. And I'm like, and now it's the Krakoan era mutants that have figured out how to cheat death, how to resurrect everybody on Krakoa. So the Eternals are like, cheating death is too much of a deviant. You've deviated too far from your regular. So we're going to kill you. Druig decides, who's leading the Eternals, like, nah, we're going to kill you all. And it doesn't go well. It's just, I'm like, this is so much fun. I'm loving this crossover. And I it's funny because the most fun I've had from the Marvel Cinematic Universe was over the last year was the Hellfire Gala 2023, when Orcus decides they make their move, and So many people die. It's so great, the mayhem that ensues, and then they're going to do the whole fall of X because they have to get rid of the Krakoan era, which I think is a mistake, but whatever. And then this crossover. I'm enjoying it. So
Good to see you, Ish. Thank you.
go figure. My favorite things are comics again.
So Tom Jr. Jackson had been next on the list, and then somehow he got kicked out, but he's back in now. So I'm going to go ahead and but he got placed on the last end of the queue. So I'm going to go ahead and have him come in now. So Tom, you should be able to join us now.
Hello.
What's up, Tom?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
My lady sends a hello to you and
All
Elizabeth,
right.
and hope you both have a nice Valentine's Day.
We are bringing back Whining About Movies this week. I can announce that now. Probably Tuesday. I have to figure out. And we're going to do Attack of the Clones.
Oh, nice.
We're coming back with Attack of the Clones. Just so you know, you're the first. Telling you.
I knew that it's coming back because she goes, "Oh, it's coming back for real this time."
Yeah.
Yeah, she told me that.
Yeah.
So what was I going to say to you? Oh yeah. Did you know Irene was in the hospital?
No.
Yeah, she wasn't feeling well. She went into the hospital. They gave her some sort of pill, and it interacted with another pill, and she died, and they had to shock her back to life.
No.
What?
Yeah, she had an allergic reaction to it.
Oh my God. Is she okay now?
Yeah, she's okay now. I think she said she might be going home today. But
Wow, I was wondering where
she
when she disappears, it's her absence has been keenly felt. I just feel, people dip in and out. So sometimes that's terrible.
Yeah.
Well, as long as she's better.
Yeah, she was telling a bunch of us that in a as part of the other show that I watched. She sent in a picture, and she has a scar, not a scar, like a mark from where they shocked her.
Wow.
Yeah. So
did she see a light? And was she being pulled toward the light?
I don't know.
Did she see Zelda Rubinstein saying, "There is peace and serenity in the light. Welcome, children"? Because that would be cool.
House is clean.
This house is clean. Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad she's feeling better.
Yeah, that shocked us all when she went, "Oh, I'm in the ICU. I'll be getting a room later today." I'm like, "What? Wait, you're in a hospital?"
Yeah,
And she posted a picture the other day of her in bed. She didn't look well at all. She had like a really bad allergic reaction to a medication they gave her. So
wow.
Yeah. But I got some books the other day. As I showed you, I got Persuader and Ashes of Eden. I needed to get
you have to get the return, dude. Persuader, Preserver is the third one.
Preserver, yeah.
So you have to read Ashes of Eden. And because the returns, all three of those books are epic. They're a great Star Trek trilogy. And you'll read them and go, why didn't they make these into movies? So
yeah.
I mean, they really should have.
And then I got this nice hardcover copy of The Pacific.
Oh, nice.
The companion book to it. Yeah. So I can't wait to start.
I haven't watched the fourth episode of Masters of the Air.
Yeah, they just
the third episode was incredible.
They just did a review of it last night.
I know, I haven't watched it yet. But yeah, I gotta watch that. I watched True Detective, the fifth episode. Yeah, although it's, I mean, they're gonna finally. I don't know if the story's been as tightly focused as possible, but man, that ending was surprising. Wow.
Oh yeah. Jodie, how about Jodie Foster's choice of her go-to movie?
What was it? I didn't hear about that.
Her choice of the go-to movie that she likes to watch is Team America.
God bless her. I've had a crush on Jodie Foster since the 70s, and I saw Candle Shoe.
I've been a fan of her since Freaky Friday. That's the movie. If I could ever talk to her, I'd want to know. Tell me about Freaky Friday and making that. 'Cause that's.
I'm sure she
I
would
think it's
appreciate
because-
that too. I think she would
I
probably.
think it was because she was either doing Candle Shoe or Freaky Friday that she wasn't able to do Star Wars because she was up for the
Princess Leia.
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad that she didn't, because I think her career, if she'd done Star Wars, might have been derailed. And she's done what I love about, kind of like Kate Winslet. I love these HBO shows where these actresses from a character standpoint, they're not wearing any makeup.
That show she's got coming out looks great.
Yeah.
The Regime, I think it's called.
That's Kate Winslet. I mean, I love her.
Yeah.
But yeah, The Regime looks pretty good. That new trailer was like, wow, okay.
Yeah, it looks bonkers. So Attack of the Clones, huh?
Yeah. I'm an Attack of the Clones defender. I'll see if that's still true.
That. It's a great movie. It is.
People hate it.
I would think. I think. I think the Phantom Menace is a bit political heavy. Attack of the Clones is very intellectual in a way, where it's dealing with clones and all that stuff. And then you have the hardcore Revenge of the Sith, which was the movie everybody wanted.
Yeah, everybody loves Revenge of the Sith, even though I think Attack of the Clones it gets a bad rap. Attack of the Clones is the Quantum of Solace of the trilogy, of the prequel trilogy.
And
I mean, come on, the whole thing, everything on Geonosis after the stupid droid factory, when you're when all the Jedi show up, and the battle in the arena, and then the battle out of the arena. Come on, who doesn't love that? What are you gonna do? A lot of people don't. So that's why I figured we're gonna do Attack of the Clones. So,
right. Well, that's about it that I got going on. Mom's doing good. She's doing
that's good.
Great. She sends her hellos to you. So
say hello to your mom. Give
I won't do that, Mark Wahlberg.
Say hi to your mom for me. Yeah. Let's talk to the animals.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
all right.
It's good. Good.
Hopefully we'll get some good trailers tomorrow.
Look, man, I got to tell you, I'm not going to lie. I hope we do get this Wolverine business and we get our Deadpool 3. I mean, I can't imagine. It's hard for me to imagine that the most excited that I have been for a Marvel movie in years is actually an X-Men movie from Fox. which Deadpool 3 is totally the end of the Fox X-Men era. You can't sit there and tell me, oh, it's an MCU movie. No, it's not. Maybe by the end, we'll move Deadpool into the MCU, but to me, this is the end of the Fox X-Men era. The true ending.
That commercial with Patrick Stewart for Paramount Plus, where he takes the kid Arnold and he throws him.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, where's this going? And then he just throws him. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
This is great. I love this.
Yeah.
I love he's not afraid to do something silly.
Yeah. Why is Justin Toner ripping on Moonraker? I'm 86ing you, buddy. You're out. Moonraker, come on. Do not put Moonraker and Die Another Day in the same sentence. And by the way, Die Another Day is half of a good movie. And then it goes completely off the rails after that sword fight. And that Madonna song is terrible.
The argument started with Pedro Ferreira calling Quantum of Solace the worst. So then it kind of went from there. So
it's underrated.
Yeah,
Quantum of Solace gets a bad rap.
I think so too. I'm a defender. All right, we got
everybody looks at the way the opening scene of Quantum of Solace is edited. This is my Quantum of Solace theory. That car chase at the beginning of Quantum of Solace is so hard to watch because it's so choppy. And here's my other theory about Quantum of Solace. Quantum of Solace came out after the first Bourne movie, or maybe the second Bourne movie, and they did probably the second Bourne movie, and they decided to re-edit the film and make it more like a Bourne film to make it get to make it faster.
Yeah.
And they destroyed all the great action that they shot. They Stuart Baird cut that movie and they edited. If you look at all the action scenes, you can't tell what's going on. There's no geography in any of them because they're cut so quickly.
I remember, and in particular, the scene where where the chase ensues at the opera. It's almost like it's jumping back and forth in time. It almost reminded me of some of the editing that they did in Easy Rider with those flash forwards before. It kind of has a weird way to advance the story from one scene to the next with these funky transitions.
Which is not, and no Bond film should be cut that way.
Yeah.
But there's some great stuff like that fight scene of when Bond goes after the agent that's in the room with Mr. White, and that over the hill, the tops of the horse race scene and all that. There's some really great stuff in it. It's just the editing is just, they decided to move away from the Bond editorial formula. And by the way, I will die on this hill. The opening scene, the opening theme song, Another Way to Die is great.
Yeah.
It's great. And everyone's like, that song's terrible.
A lot
No,
of people
you're terrible.
don't like it. Yeah.
You're terrible. You're wrong. It's great. It sounds Bondian. I love it.
Yeah. Well, and the whole thing to me works if you watch it back to back with Casino Royale. It kind of completes that whole picture. So
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
All right, we got Mattuine coming up next. Hello, Mattuine. Should be able
What's up,
to
dude?
join us.
Hey, Rob. Good to see
How are
you
you?
again after a long winter and fall break.
Well, it's good to have you back.
Yeah, appreciate it. Things are warming up down here, so everybody's getting out, moving around, and thawing out after the long winter
In February.
in February. Yeah,
Yeah.
Hey,
We've just had big storms here in Southern California, and they're finally going away. So,
yeah. It seems like you guys either have a drought or you get most of your rain all at once. It's just not a good balance.
big snowpack, a lot of water. We still haven't figured out how to store any water we get. So it's like God himself comes and takes buckets and dumps them on us. And then the water all flows out into the sea.
Yeah. Perfect spot for it, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I want to flesh out what you said a while ago. And this is kind of going into what I've been thinking about a lot this week or this year, really. Is the 40th anniversary, or this is the 40th anniversary from a lot of great movies from 1984.
Also the book.
Yeah, for the book. And I think there was a movie 1984 in 1984.
Yep.
What a good time to put it out. And I've never seen it, but I've heard it talked about. But
with John Hurt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But you said a while ago that all pop culture is has a 20-year half-life.
20-year half-life.
Here we are at 40 years of some of the, in my generation, at least I can say 84. You can pick a span from like 82 to 86 where best movies ever made in that decade for sure, but in that little window. And I started looking at the top grossing movies from that year, just the top 10.
Beverly Hills Cop.
Beverly Hills Cop, which is in post-production right now. This is where I'm going. Ghostbusters coming out here in just, not long at all. Indiana Jones, The Temple of Doom. Technically, that was last year, but let's just say it's still. But a Star Trek movie. Star Trek's still kind of evergreen.
Yeah, I mean they're making Section 31. You can still say that there's a Star Trek movie being made. So yeah, that's fair.
Dune, which arguably was good for its time, but I think we can say the Dune that's coming out now is superior. And then you got Karate Kid.
Yeah,
which. You look at Cobra Kai that's on Netflix, and of all those, and then you got Terminator. It's not really being done. Gremlins is being rumored that there might be another one. There's that animated series, but still there's a talk of it. But if you look at those top movies we just mentioned, only one or two have had remakes, reboots 40 years later. Let's just say 35 to 40 years later that really stuck the landing. So how does that fit in with you say when the pop culture has a 20-year half-life that we're trying so hard to remake a lot of these classics from 40 years ago, but they're missing the point in a lot of them. I enjoyed the last Ghostbusters. It was
but I think what's okay, what's really sad about that is the fact that they're remaking so many things from 40 years ago. You know, that all of those things that you mentioned, with the if you look, Beverly Hills Cop was an original film, and Ghostbusters was an original film. Temple of Doom was the second movie from a very successful film that they didn't even know was going to be as successful as it was. Gremlins, original movie. Karate Kid, original movie. Police Academy, Footloose, Romancing the Stone, Splash. All of those movies that did very well at the box office were original films. And nowadays, the fact that we are so mired in remakes and sequels shows just how creatively bankrupt the studios have become. And I think that the problem is, what happened was, studios used to make movies for a domestic marketplace. And these movies, believe it or not, were not expensive. I mean, relatively inexpensive. I mean, you're looking at movies that did not cost $100 million. They didn't even cost $50 million. They didn't even cost $30 million. So the amount of money that was being spent on these films, like, I don't know what the production budget was for Beverly Hills Cop, but it wasn't a $50 million movie. And so they can make it cheap. And what's interesting to me is, look at the fact that we're getting a Beverly Hills Cop Axel F movie. We're supposed to believe that a cop from 40 years ago is still a cop now, and that Taggart, you know, and Judge Reinhold and Taggart, you know, his character, they're coming back. And I think Ronnie Cox as Bogomil is going to be back in it. I mean, I get why they're doing all this stuff. I get it, but I hope it's great, because Beverly Hills Cop's one of my favorite action comedies of the 80s. But wouldn't it be interesting if all that time and effort was put into a new Eddie Murphy movie, a new potential franchise? It's just bizarre to me. But it's because nowadays, with streaming, the Hollywood has to be risk averse, because I guarantee you, Beverly Hills Cop, Beverly Hills Cop Axel Foley, I'm willing to bet the amount of money it costs to make that movie, which is going directly to streaming. I don't know the answer to this, but I'm willing to bet it's 4 times as much as the original Beverly Hills Cop cost. 4 times as much. Because we don't even know how to make movies cheaply anymore. And what is that movie actually saying? And I'm sure this is not a slag on the movie, because I even love Tony Scott's Beverly Hills Cop 2. I think it's a pretty respectable sequel. Style's different, but I think Beverly Hills Cop and Beverly Hills Cop 2 work. You know, that's all you need. Beverly Hills Cop 3 was an abortion, but we're getting a Beverly Hills Cop 4 40 years later. And the question I would ask is, why? What about that particular movie, other than the fact that you're treading on a 40-year-old franchise that no one who's working in Hollywood today, other than the actors, had any stake in creating? I guess you could say Jerry Bruckheimer, probably. You know, Jerry Bruckheimer is still producing movies. You know, Simpson Bruckheimer, that Beverly Hills Cop was a game changer in terms of promoting films. Flashdance and Beverly Hills Cop 83, 84, Simpson Bruckheimer on their meteoric rise to dominating Hollywood. It's just a weird thing that's what we're getting. It's just bizarre to me. And an audience, what's really interesting is, I understand that the IP is safe, but your primary movie-going audience does not have any affection or connection to Beverly Hills Cop, the original. It's 40 years old, and people know it and like it. But how many people have watched Beverly Hills Cop? I mean, how many people? You're not going to fall for the banana in the tailpipe. I mean, does anyone remember that? You know, does anybody remember Neutron Dance and how cool that opening scene was? Does like, when I say to people, the Super Cop story, it was working. No one remembers that. Maybe people remember Serge. Don't they cover this up? This is like the breast of a dog for the customer. It's not sexy. It's animal. I mean, do people remember that? I loved it. You know, you ever sell any of these? I sold it yesterday to a collector. Get the fuck out of here. No, I cannot. Serious, it's a very important piece. Do you want the espresso? Make it back there with a little lemon twist. It's good. You should try it. I mean, you know, these are things that everybody used to remember growing up. Does anyone remember that now? I don't know.
Yeah.
But
All right. Well, thanks to Matteween for sharing those comments. We've got Pedro Ferreira coming up next. I guess you can have the Quantum of Solace argument with him.
Uh-oh.
I don't know. Maybe he has something else to share. But welcome, Pedro.
What's up, dude?
No, yeah, I don't really want to talk about Quantum of Solace. No one really wants to talk about
understandable. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, thinking about that movie makes me feel stupid. So I was just wondering how you are. You all right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that screenshot from the new Ghostbusters movie. You're looking at you've seen better days, I think. Your hair.
Yeah. I know, but you got to give it up for Roberto for creating
a great job. I mean, he really, like, even the name tag and everything. Great job.
It's brilliant work. He does brilliant work.
I'm just a little bit worried that the screenshot, the sharpness of the image is better than the actual sharpness of the art of Afterlife and the new movie going in motion. That's the only problem I'm worried about.
There is that. Let's hope.
I don't know if you wanted to talk to me, since I'm a big Ghostbusters fan. I don't know if you wanted to talk to me about the new movie and what I thought about it. But I mean, I was just going to say that I didn't feel much nostalgia. Like they really pushed for the nostalgia, but I didn't feel. I mean, I know that they were saying stuff like about how it's very much like the real Ghostbusters, but I honestly really don't see any references to the real Ghostbusters in the new movie. It looks nothing like the real Ghostbusters.
Yeah, no, I look, to me,
the real Ghostbusters had the four original characters. They're not wearing the same costumes. The containment units is still the same as the original movie and not like in the cartoon series. I'm not quite sure how it's supposed to be like the real Ghostbusters. Maybe I'm missing something, but visually it doesn't look anything like it. But yeah, people have a weird interpretation of nostalgia.
Yeah, look, I like the first. I was so disappointed by Ghostbusters 2. I kind of tuned out. The video game was fun, but
the Ghostbusters 2, I actually quite like Ghostbusters 2. But I do understand it's not as good as the first one. I read up on the sequel, and I mean it's still 10 afterwards anyway. But it's amazing. It's an amazing sequel to research, like to read up on how they made it, because they literally went in there with a script, and they were very indifferent towards making a sequel, and they ended up running into tons and tons of issues making it, and they had to restructure the entire movie, and the more they added into the movie, the more other stuff didn't make sense in terms of continuity. And it's such an interesting film to research in terms of how a movie can get messed up once you start adding more stuff to it.
And the fact that they switched over to ILM to do the visual effects was not helpful, because I think the movie looks terrible.
Really?
I mean,
there's so many visual effects in the movie that I think they look great and everything. But the thing is like there's shots in there, like the Titanic thing's only in there for like 5 seconds, and they built like half the Titanic.
But also it just doesn't look. The effects come. Richard Edlund, who did the effects for the first Ghostbusters, shot his effects in 65mm on film. ILM was 35 VistaVision. So the actual look.
They shoot it in 35 because the visual effects look exact. They match up exactly to the.
But the quality of the effects, the actual animation and the look, I think ruin because the first Ghostbusters, again, a movie that had a lot of location work on it. Yeah, it had a lot of miniature work too, but even the rooms that they're in, like they're in real places, and the city of New York was represented. It had, whereas Ghostbusters 2 has a much more artificial look. Even the colors, they like when the Statue of Liberty comes to life and all that stuff. It's no Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I mean, I just don't like that. The look of the effects is different to me. I hated it.
It looks very, I don't know, I think the effects look very real to me, but I think there's a huge amount of location work in that movie. I mean, it's very, Ivan Reitman, in the first movie, he showed a very kind of dirty kind of New York. And in the
it looked real.
He showed a very glamorous, he showed all the glamorous places in kind of New York. And made it look very glamorous. And I think maybe that it's different. I wouldn't say it's terrible. I mean, at least unlike Ghostbusters 2016, it did look like it was shot in Boston.
Yeah, or Toronto.
Yeah, or London even, probably. We'll get there anyway. But yeah, I don't know. It's I think the problem with Ghostbusters 2, and I've always said this, is that when you look at the original movie, every single frame and has something going on, and Ghostbusters 2 lacks incident. And when I say incident, I don't mean storyline action. I mean the actual frame. There's something going on in the frame.
Oh, I know. I think Ghostbusters 2 looks incredibly artificial compared to, it's funny to say that about a Ghostbusters movie, but
yeah,
Ghostbusters 1,
but I think it still looks, I have to disagree. I think it still looks realistic.
You should go watch them back to back.
I have. I know the movies very, very well. Yeah. I know they look both very different from each other, but I wouldn't say the second one looks like, when I look at Afterlife, that looks artificial. Afterlife looks it doesn't look realistic at all.
Yeah.
The animation doesn't look realistic. The good visual effects in Afterlife are the ones they reused from the original movie.
Yeah, I mean, the difference is that you had a different aesthetic overall in the first Ghostbusters that I think played into the humor.
Yeah.
And by making it look to make it look more artificial, it looked more like a comedy in Ghostbusters 2. And the funny thing about the first Ghostbusters is that when you're the juxtaposition of the humor and the reality of it worked really, really well. And you're coming off of movies like Stripes, where you had Bill Murray's persona that was previously established. So like in the beginning, when he's doing the psychic turning over the cards, and he's trying to, it is a star. I mean, you're playing on what his persona had come from, and the fact that a guy like Bill Murray gets wrapped up in all these supernatural shenanigans, that in itself was playing off Bill Murray's comedic performance for the past 5 years, whether it was in Meatballs or whether it was in Saturday Night Live or whether it was in. And so it was fresh. And then you had another 5 years between Ghostbusters 1 and Ghostbusters 2, and the world had changed. Mm-hmm. So had Bill Murray. Bill Murray's like, I'm going to do the Razor's Edge and try and become a serious actor. And so his evolution played into where Ghostbusters 2 was as well. And that's something that I was keenly aware of when I watched Ghostbusters 2 in the summer of '89, perhaps the most disappointing summer in cinema history, mm-hmm. which had License to Kill, which had Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which had Tim Burton's Batman, which had Ghostbusters 2, Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. All the movies I look forward to were disappointing in some respect for me. So
yeah. Well, to me, the Ghostbusters 2 was the first example of a movie that I saw where they and I see this so much in sequels that I don't think are well planned out, is you take the characters to a certain point in the original movie, and then the sequel starts, and they've reset the characters to where they were prior to the first film.
100%.
And I could 100%. Not. I was just so disappointed in that, because I was like, oh, come on. I mean, we saw them grow in a certain direction. We saw the people of New York rise up and believe in them and whatnot. And now we're back to, No, it's all it never. It's almost like it never happened.
Well, that was the whole thing. I mean, it's not like people talk about, oh, it was a mass. They joke about the fact that the first Ghostbusters never occurred, and yet you had the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man walking down Fifth Avenue or whatever. It's like that happened, and you can't chalk that up to. I mean, it blew up, and I mean, you literally see ghosts exploding at that great moment. A great effect shot where you see the wide angle of New York and you hear that it's magic, magic, that really cool song. And you see the pink stuff come out and it goes over the entire city. And the ghosts are everywhere. They're coming out of manhole covers. They're everywhere. And what would have been really interesting is that in Ghostbusters 2, what did the world look like after everyone knows ghosts are real? And now if ghosts become a problem, like a problem.
I was expecting it to be like now there's an NYPD ghost division or something, right? So like the whole complexities of now having to manage a citywide ghost busting,
or having operation. a cold case files where ghosts have come back to help solve their own murders.
Yeah.
Like you guys, these people never came to justice,
right.
Or you would have to have a the mob division, the people that are looking at organized crime in New York, they're able to now talk to all the people the mob killed over the years. And they come back and so they're like, oh my God, we have all these unsolved cases. And so you have the Russian and the Italian mafia running around going, God damn it.
Yeah.
And the Irish mob, whatever, everyone's all pissed because and you could even have like, what happens if Sonny Corleone had to deal with, he kills the 5 families. And what if the 5 families come back as ghosts? And they're like, if you don't do what we say now, Michael Corleone.
Right.
Or you could have Michael Corleone having dead Sonny and dead Vito, advising him, the 5. And so all these dead mafiosos are back, bringing all their old beefs up. You could have done all kinds of crazy shit.
You have all sorts of like mob wars happening, from different time periods.
From ghosts.
People are just trying to shop at Bloomingdale's, and these ghost battles are going on.
I mean, it's you get out there, but I think you're absolutely right. That's the problem with so many sequels is that they reset. And if creatively the only way that you're seeing for the sequel is to reset things and basically retell the original story, you should not be doing a sequel. I mean, it doesn't work. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, Indiana Jones acts like nothing ever happened to him.
Like he doesn't believe anything that he ever experienced.
And he would never be that guy. Like, I just don't, what they did was they just are like, okay, we're going to take a cliche of the old disaffected guy whose dreams have failed and his life is terrible. We're just going to take an easy cliche like that and make it into that paradigm. And what it did was it made the movie no fun.
Yeah.
It didn't matter what your action scenes were. Indiana Jones was, he always wanted to pretend like he was beyond all of it, but you knew he wasn't. You knew that when he's entering that temple at the beginning of Raiders, that he's down with, he's like, he's so good at what he does. Cepito's already, he's like, he grabs Cepito's like, stay out of the light, and then he puts his hand up and the thing goes because he knows, and when you get to that stage, who knows what he's seen, but to turn him into this gruff, disappointed, my son's dead, my wife has left me. That was a fundamental misunderstanding of the character of Indiana Jones, I think. So it made the movie immediately, it's not fun.
It's a slog. Yeah, it makes it
and all the action scenes, it's just like, I don't care about any of them.
Yeah.
And it's wild. I think that was a mistake because nowadays somebody in some boardroom said, we have to make it relatable. It's Hollywood now. It's always, how do we have these shortcuts to make characters instantly recognizable? And it's like, how about having Indiana Jones? If that's what you're going to do, I would say then make him the opposite. Make him the crazy crackpot Gandalf. That he has some long beard. He's almost like a cult leader teaching the world about magic. You would not believe what happened when I had the Sankara stones. I saw a dude rip out a beating heart from somebody with his bare hands, and it turned to fire. I mean, he was drugged at the time or whatever, but still.
Yeah, but I mean, the end of Raiders, he's upset that the arc is being hidden away, right? That they're not going to study it. The fact is, he is somebody who wants to continue to explore the nature of these things, and yet every time he just kind of comes back to being a non-believer, right? It just doesn't seem to. After what you've seen, it's the Scully problem in the X-Files, where how much do you have to see to actually believe the stuff you're seeing, right?
Yeah, and I think that's been a problem with our franchises.
Yeah,
because they always want to reset it and tell us the same story.
Same story. Yeah, I know. I remember when Bad Santa 2 came out, and I was like, any progress that those characters made in the first movie, completely lost in the second film. It was just like, this is not a sequel. This is just a rehash. So,
yeah.
All right.
Terrible.
Stubble. Oh, hold on. Before Stubble, I know you're waiting patiently, but we have our super chat from Alexander Wilson, who says, Rob, Shogun is getting a lot of praise in its reviews. Are you going to watch it? And what are your thoughts on what you have seen so far?
Okay, I'm very excited about Shogun. I can't wait to see this. The girl boss nature of it makes me a little wary. I'm like, and I know some reviewers have seen it already and are saying great things. Here's the thing. I've read that book. I know this is a series and not a mini series. And I know that they're going to have this story is going to have to be expanded, but that doesn't mean it can't be great. I know they spent a long time on this show, and fingers are crossed because I cannot wait. The original Shogun is it might be my favorite. My 3 favorite miniseries of all time are I, Claudius, Shogun, and Winds of War. And if you were to ask me on various days of the week which ones I like the best, they would change. But it's a constantly rotating. I'm watching Masters of the Air, and I'm like, oh, I want to watch Winds of War again.
Yeah.
And now before Shogun, I want to watch the Shogun miniseries again because I have it on Blu-ray.
The Richard Chamberlain one. Yeah.
Because I loved it so much. It was so good.
Yeah. I would throw into that mix. Singing Detective is another one of my favorite miniseries. I love that.
It's a great one. Masada's good, but I didn't like Masada as much.
Yeah.
Brian already says Masada, and that was Masada was great, but I already knew that story. So it was like, but it was good. It was well done. I like. All right,
Stubble has been waiting patiently. Welcome, Stubble. You should be able to join the chat now.
Hi, Rob.
What's going on, man?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. So, Attack of the Clones, huh?
Oh yeah, people are gonna watch.
It sits on 2 legs. It has a mystery plot and a romance plot.
Yes,
and the romance plot doesn't work.
And does the mystery plot
better because it's not as much human interaction in that one.
I mean, I don't think Attack of the problem that there are cloners on Camino building a clone army that no one seems to know anything about. Jedi.
That's the logical problem, but the visual problem, the experience problem is the romance plot.
Oh, it's terrible. I mean, it's written by like George Lucas. You'd think he'd never kissed a girl before. Yeah, it's so weird. I mean, the dialogue is so.
I've tried to watch it. I can't get through it. I turn it off halfway through. And the sand line gets all the hate. That line is not terrible. It's just standing in for all the other terrible dialogue between the 2 characters.
Well, and I think a lot of the problem with Attack of the Clones is, again, all of it's artificial. Yeah. You're never you're on Geonosis. They didn't go into the desert anywhere and film any of that. All of it. I mean, he was so enamored of the digital technology. The whole chase through the skies of Coruscant. You're looking at it and it's you just don't believe any of it. There's no feeling of any kind of reality to it. So no one's going to get hurt. There's no real and even the design work. Why am I looking at SR-71s? These chrome bombers, and I get it, I understand, but I don't think any of the movie works. So I'm really excited about watching it again.
Yeah,
because I mean, it's just. Did
you read the article in the Wrap about the Coyote versus Acme?
Yeah, I did. And you know, it's I find this whole thing strange in the sense that so they've decided this movie that tests well. I mean, I'm really not understanding. This is the second time they said Coyote versus Acme tested well, just like Roadhouse tested well, and Roadhouse is going direct to streaming and not theatrical. And they want to get rid of Coyote versus Acme, which to me seems so odd because I just don't get it.
Yeah, and I also think, you know, you piss off all the talent. They don't want to work with you if you do this all the time.
Right.
So, you know, if a studio gets a reputation to axing all the projects that, you know, then people may be hesitant to work with them. Maybe pick another studio, you know, the directors and whatnot.
Well, again, I think the problem is that you have a business that is incompatible with the way that the people that control the business want it to run. Like the ideas of they want the products that movie theater or that movie studios make, which are movies. They want those products to act like other consumer products, and they want the profit margins and all of that to work the same way that other consumer products work. And it just doesn't work that way. Yeah. It's never worked that way. And so, you know, they're going to take a tax write-off. Like, your job is to make movies. And if you're going to write something off, even if you could make back money. So if you sold the movie off, I mean, why not get some money in as opposed to writing off? I mean, I don't understand.
No. I was just wondering, how much is it worth to piss off your talent?
Well, if you have a good movie, like, there are always, and I'm not convinced, like, look, there are times when people can look at movies and, like, I don't think Ralph Bakshi's Cool World that stars Brad Pitt, if you know that movie, I don't think anyone would look at Cool World today and say that was a good movie. No offense to Ralph Bakshi, because I really like your work, but that movie wasn't good in any way, shape, or form. And I took a first date to that movie, and I wondered, luckily it worked out, but it was terrible. And I wonder if Coyote versus Acme, the idea of it alone, unless it's a truly terrible film, but according to everybody that worked on it, it's not a truly terrible film. And what I don't understand is, why aren't they, like, why not, if are they test screening it and not, they should know. And I think there might be something else at work, why they want to write it off for a reason, which I don't know what that is, because they've released movies that are worse. Why not? You know, I don't get it. I honestly don't understand.
By the way, I want to get a shout out to Kevin, who had the Scoundrels book the other week. And it made me pick up, you know, the Expanded Universe books from my storage. Started reading them.
Oh, the stuff.
Yeah.
What have you read? Which ones did you read?
I started with New Jedi Order, which take place 25 years after the Battle of Yavin.
Yep.
So it, you know, they have teenage children and so on, and the children is just as much a part of the story as the parents. So
yeah.
They are in the process of handing over the torch.
Yeah, it was all done.
Yeah,
they already did it all.
For me, it's my headcanon. You know, the Disney post Return of the Jedi is not my headcanon anymore.
No,
it's an alternate universe that I consider it to be an alternate universe right now.
I do too. I thought kind of like all of modern Star Trek.
Yes. And who was it to mention the 1984, you know, 40 years anniversary? I don't remember who was before me.
It was our first.
That. Yeah,
our first.
It was Matt Twain. Matt Twain was the one who mentioned it.
Yeah. Anyway, for me, it's the 30 years anniversary. That's the big thing for me, because 1994 is my favorite movie year.
There's a lot of good stuff. The Crow came out in 94.
I wrote down
Forrest Gump came out in 94.
Yeah, Shawshank Redemption, Pulp Fiction, Leon the Professional.
Yeah. Oh,
Natural Born Killers, Heavenly Creatures, True Lies, Stargate, Speed, The Mask, Ace Ventura, Dumb and Dumber, Interview with a Vampire,
Wow.
Four Weddings and a Funeral, Clear and Present Danger, and a lot of more movies. It was a wonderful movie year. It's easily my favorite, but it doesn't have any, franchise movies.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
none of those movies became franchises.
Well, because
Clear and Present Danger was part technically.
Oh,
of the
it was
Jack
part
Ryan.
of. All right, but
but you know what though? I would say that the thing about Clear and Present Danger is it's based on a book.
Yeah.
And I draw a line. I think it was based on if something is derived from a novel, I tend to think of it differently, because if a franchise is being written from whole cloth, it's usually more of a risk than if you're adapting a novel. So if there's a series of novels like the Bond movies or whatever, I don't like the Bond movies are a franchise, certainly, but I tend to give more credibility to the franchises that are adapting books than the franchises that are being written from whole cloth, because in my mind, and I don't have any data to support this, usually the franchises that come from books are better than the movies that are just written from scratch.
I mean, and it depends on how well they adapt the book, or what, right? Because James Bond, in some cases, only borrowed the title, right?
Right, exactly. It's true. That's 100%.
But
we should look into that. Now I want to know the answer.
There were 3 franchises that died that year, and a Star Trek original with Generations.
Yeah.
Naked Gun.
Yeah.
Which was the worst of them, and Beverly Hills Cop 3 was the worst of them. So the franchises died, and they didn't start any new franchises.
Well, you could only Generations was actually the first Next Generation movie, and they still made 3 others. So you could say,
or it was the last original.
Yeah. I. You know what? It's funny. I hated that movie, but not as much as Mark Altman did. I had to calm him down. When Mark Altman and I came out of, we went and saw a screening on the Paramount lot when it was over, and he was screaming. I had to calm him down. I'm like, dude, we gotta get off the lot before you start screaming like this. There's people. We're on the Paramount lot. You gotta calm down. And it was, I mean, I hated Generations, but not to the point where because it was just the central premise of it made no sense at all.
Yeah.
With a spacefaring energy ribbon that somehow had intelligence enough to look into your mind and conjure up whatever it was, whatever place you want. It was so, as a science fiction idea, it didn't work. I'm like, that's a stupid. It was such a dumb, and I couldn't get through the stupid, like, you launch a chemical rocket from the surface of a planet and it's able to make it to a star in seconds. Even I'm like, it takes light 8 minutes to get from our sun to the Earth at 186,000 miles per second. And you're firing a chemical rocket and it goes up, and then the reaction happens instantaneously. So the sun blows up. I mean, I know they have to do that for dramatic purposes, but I'm like, you've completely lost me.
Yeah.
You lost me with the whole Nexus ribbon. Now you're losing me with this whole,
Yeah. No,
it's hard for me to watch. It's beautiful to look at. And I even think Dennis McCarthy's score is pretty good. Yeah. But man, that movie's hard. It's rough. And what they do to Kirk is just ridiculous.
Yeah. I think
that he wants to live in a log cabin with some woman we've never heard of.
I think the alternative story they were considering, which would be that Kirk would participate as a hologram, would have been a much better way to go about it.
Well, it's funny because and really you had Ron Moore and Brandon Braga, who wrote All Good Things for the end of Next Generation and Generations. They were writing them at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think they were just so overworked, and I think Generations was so rushed that they had to get it into production that no one stopped and thought, none of this movie makes any sense at all.
And if they paid attention to the books, they could have been talking to Judith and Garfield Reeves-Stevens, who had a great idea with Federation, and say, how can we maybe adapt this to have it be the crossover movie, so that we could take that idea, and then just bumped it forward in time, and they could have totally had a much better working story there.
Yeah, it was really stupid.
Yeah. Rob, you mentioned Bakshi's Cool World. You know what I just found on YouTube? Somebody has restore. I don't know if they restored it or they just found a really good copy of it and they posted it to YouTube. Is Bakshi's 1997 series Spicy City? Are you familiar with this?
Yeah,
series?
yeah. That's interesting.
It's got a bit of a Twilight Zone. I mean, it's an anthology series with a narrator who kind of goes from story to story. It's pretty cool. I think in a way it kind of improves on what he tried to do with Cool World. So
yeah, I mean, I grew up watching home video when I first got home video, showing my friends X-rated Fritz the Cat and the Nine Lives of Fritz the Cat.
Yeah.
And then had to get movies like Coonskin, which was like, people thought now it's probably canceled.
Yeah,
but
that is such a powerful movie. Yeah.
And then of course he did Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
But it was mostly rotoscope and he never finished it. Right. It's like we see, here's half of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Here you go.
I know. Alexander Wilson has a super chat. I read that Warner Brothers Discovery would only sell Coyote versus Acme only for $75 million or more because it would break even. But the highest bid they got was $50 million. Thoughts?
I mean, I can understand that a company that's going to buy that movie. I mean, why don't they take the $50 million and then write off the rest? Mm-hmm. If that's what they want to do. But I think that they were going to take a tax write down for more than $50 million. I mean, less than $50 million. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can understand that they want $75 million is a lot of money. Although the thing is, the movie has to be good. If the movie's not good, and it could not be good, maybe that's the real reason behind it. I understand that.
We haven't heard anything about the screenings, right?
What I don't understand is if they're trying to sell it to a streamer, $75 million is not that much money, and they would get an IP generated. I mean, all the Looney Tunes characters and Wile E. Coyote. I mean, come on.
Yeah, this sounds a little bit like that Rescue Rangers that came out a couple of years ago, which ended up being a bit of an underground hit for Disney. They didn't really promote it that much, but it got a lot of good buzz.
I'd like to believe that I think that people, and I don't have anything to back this up at all, but I think because it's a Roger Rabbit-esque situation where you have animated characters in the real world, I'll bet you that the people, I'm sure if you showed this movie to David Zaslav, he just immediately in his mind writes it off. Like, what is this? This movie was being made since before Discovery took over. What is this movie? I hate this movie. I don't trust anybody. Like, you now have two movies like Batgirl. I know a lot of people talk about Batgirl being unreleasable, and it was that. But was it that bad? Yeah. And I do not trust anyone's point of view about these things until I see it, because I think that people who are calling the shots now in Hollywood know less than they've ever known. And it's weird to me, the things but then again, Batgirl could be just terrible. Yeah. But what does that mean? I don't know.
And let's face it, no movie is unreleasable. I mean, they're out there. You can just put them out, right?
Yeah.
You could always release it in some way.
Because here's the thing. I guess it's because, I spent 2 years ensconced at Warner Physical Production. I worked for the senior vice president of physical production. And when I was there, every single day, the executives had to watch dailies of the movies after lunch every day between 1 to 3 at least. All the dailies that Warner Brothers movies that Warner Brothers was making were watched by executives, and they all knew. They all knew if a movie was good or bad in the middle of production, and they were trying to figure out, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? What can we do? And when I was there, there was an inordinate amount of movies that were, let's call them, underwhelming. From Bonfire of the Vanities to Dan Aykroyd's magnum opus, Nothing But Trouble, that they couldn't even decide on the name of. It was Trick House, then it was Vulcanvania, then it was Nothing But Trouble. And Nothing But Trouble, now it's a cult movie. But when you look at it, imagine what it was like to be an executive at Warner Brothers watching the dailies for that movie coming. People were not happy, and they didn't know what to do. And it was, I don't understand now how they're not, and I would, here's a theory. I am willing to bet that the executives at Warner Brothers today, or any executives at any studios, do not, in fact, watch all of the dailies of their movies because they get them digitally. They're either getting them digitally, probably there's a portal that you go into and you have to watch. Well, what person, especially a studio executives, is going to spend 2 hours watching dailies?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, zero.
Yeah.
No studio executives are going to do that. But in the day when I was at Warner Brothers in 89, 90, you had to actually go to a screening room with other executives so people knew whether you're showing up or not. Now, if the movie that you had greenlit and then the movie that you were covering, you could just stay and watch those dailies. If it was a movie you had nothing to do with, you could get up and leave and nobody would say anything. But all the executives saw each other at these things, so they knew it was checks and balances. You couldn't not show up because there's millions and millions of dollars we're watching take shape right on the screen. They don't do that today.
Yeah.
They don't watch the dailies. They don't even know if they're all watching dailies, what they're watching, because dailies are incredibly boring to watch. And unless you're the filmmaker watching dailies, you're like, what am I looking at? There's no sound. There's no color correction. I mean, you're getting audio, but there's no explosions. There's no nothing. I mean, even when you watch an explosion, you hear the sound from a distance, or they turn the sound off. You know, they're not recording it. Why would they record an explosion? Because you hear all the, okay, get ready, fire in the hole, all five, blah, blah, blah. You know, that's all you hear.
Yeah.
So.
All right. We got Brian Erdy coming up next. Brian, you can join us now in the chat. Welcome.
What's up, man?
How's it going?
It's going well. I love these chats.
Yeah.
Because I never know what we're going to talk about.
Well, I hope this is fun. Before I get to my comment, can I share a Quantum of Solace story?
Oh, by all means.
So I did the press junket. I was invited to do the press junket for Quantum of Solace. And as a longtime Bond fan, I was beside myself, excited. I was losing my mind. So we saw the movie, and as we do, following day, we were at Four Seasons, and we were doing our interviews. And afterwards, you go back to hospitality, and as is typical, the studio promotion people will kind of filter around, and they'll come up to you and be like, "Do you have a quote? Want to give us a quote?" And I've been burned by quotes before, and a lot of critics have done quotes just to get their name on a poster. Okay, so I think they're a little disingenuous,
right? Sure,
but it's James Bond, and I liked the movie. So I gave the following quote. I said, Daniel Craig gives a great James Bond performance. Okay. Now, when
good quote, I would agree with that.
Yeah, that's truthful. That's accurate. That's not being a quote whore, as they're called. The commercials promoting the movie start hitting the air. And my quote ended up saying, Daniel Craig is the best Bond ever. Brian Erdy, WSB TV. And for months, I had people giving me grief online about that. Months.
So they lied.
They lied.
They bastardized your quote.
Yep.
Imagine that, advertisers lying. No, that's bad.
No, I mean, I was hesitant to do it in the first place, but oh well.
And rightfully so.
And at least I got to meet Daniel Craig, so I got that out of it. So
yeah, I mean, obviously that movie was also hugely compromised by the writer's strike. There was a writer's strike on when they were making that film. Right. So and that's not an excuse, but I think that there's a lot of good in that movie. I really do. There's a real interesting that movie has a very propulsive feel to it. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really well made. It looks good, but I think the storyline and especially the ending in this exploding hotel in the middle of nowhere, and it's like, why are we here? Like, what's going on? Where's the real threat? We want to get all the water, which, by the way, is a legitimate concern, certainly. But it's just like, and I even thought the villain was great. He was a great actor. but it's not like, it's just a weird, like, okay, we're gonna parachute into this mountain and we fall into the water. It's just, I don't know. But the first 30 minutes are pretty good. And Olga Kurylenko is a great Bond girl.
Lovely. We were usually there's a minute or two before our interview started, and I was just chit-chatting with Daniel Craig, and he said, what did you like the movie, and what did you like about it? And I brought up the fact that I love the score. I mean, you hear me comment about soundtracks all the time.
Yeah.
But I'm really into film music, and I mentioned the score, and he goes, "Oh, nobody ever talks about that." And he was real curious to talk about that aspect of the production, which was kind of fun.
Yeah, and also there's things about it, like I can't stand the opening credit sequence because it was done by a different company. Daniel Kleinman had done the opening Bond credit sequences since GoldenEye.
Right.
And his sequences have been up and down, but for the most part, they have a certain quality to them, and they brought Kleinman back. That was the only one he didn't do, and he even did No Time to Die, and which, by the way, for me, capped off the Craig era in such a. I've decided that, and as a matter of fact, Binary Sunset Media, who is here, they're here, wrote an incredible note to me that I'm going to make, and I'm going to read it on Observations about why the Daniel Craig era as a whole failed. And I think that I loved Casino Royale. I think Casino Royale is a great movie. And what they tried to do is they tried to tell the entire lifespan of James Bond over the course of the Daniel Craig era. So you've got his first mission as a 00 from Casino Royale to Quantum of Solace. And then then you have his entire career played out, but he never got to be a secret agent. He never got to be a 00 that was on just a mission where he was badass. He goes straight to Skyfall, where from Quantum of Solace that everybody loves, but he gets shot off a train and, woe was me, I'm going to go sit in a bar and play drinking games with scorpions because I feel such a sad sack. And then when I come back, you've got the new M saying, well, you've missed a step, or whatever. There's no, I mean, not the new M, but Ray Fiennes or whatever. And then he's the same guy from Skyfall to Spectre to No Time to Die, which is at the end of his career. So we never got to see Daniel Craig at the height of Bond's powers and have a mission-based movie where he gets a mission and kicks some ass. And it was, I think the whole Craig era was a mistake by trying to make him this more relatable, emotional, I've lost my love. And then it's just, it's not.
The ending of No Time to Die, just nonsense. I mean, it's
so stupid.
I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, and he's standing there. You came in a submarine, bruh. Why don't you go down, get in that submarine, and sink underneath the water while the missiles hit, and you take off, and as the thing is coming down around you in flames, you escape, and then and then Q Branch, says, hey, you know what? We actually we've counteracted this disease you now have. I mean, it was so lame. I hated that movie. I watched that movie once. I will never watch it again.
Yeah.
I will never watch it again. I hated it. Although it's, and I expected so much from Cary Fukunaga. I was really excited. Homegirl, I do like, what's her face? I don't remember her character's name, but she was having fun. She's like, oh, the fun James Bond movies now started. I mean, that was great. And why they didn't have the two of them team up for the rest of the movie that dynamic was something Daniel Craig desperately needed in the Bond franchise to give it some fun levity where you have this like pixie-ish hot girl who can kick major ass, who's she's like a wrecking ball. It would have been so much fun to have that dynamic and lightened up the mood. Piss me off.
All right. Thanks,
anyway,
man.
I'm on it. Thank
you, Brian. Good to see you.
I feel like I've turned into this curmudgeon. Just this curmudgeonly. God damn it! Send me those Simpsons memes.
All right, we've got Kevin coming up next. Welcome, Kevin.
Hey guys.
Hey.
What's up, dude?
How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there, yelling and screaming.
I was just gonna say, tell us how you really feel, Rob.
I always do, but I'm right.
I didn't have really like any questions or anything today, but I was just gonna show a couple things. We were talking, or you guys have been talking about all the old Star Wars. Well, you're talking about Attack of the Clones, and it's one of those things where I actually enjoy the adaptation, the book adaptations much better because of the detail. And when I have all 3 of the prequels, but I was thinking, I was like, I don't think I've ever read the actual original trilogy books. So I went and got that. I went and got a big book of all 3 of them
omnibus
together. Yeah, it's a big thing.
They're pretty interesting, aren't they?
Yeah, they're not bad. I haven't started it yet. I have a few other things that are I'm reading before that, but I'm gonna get into that. But yeah, I enjoy it just because of the information, and you get a little bit more detail. I don't know how much detail is in these. I've read some reviews that said they're okay. They're not, perfect, but we'll see.
Well, the thing about the prequel novels is that the authors of the books had to make everything, the characters work, because they're novels. And I really think that the thing about George Lucas is he's using all this new digital technology, and he was even able to take certain scenes and takes, and he's like, well, I like his delivery from take 1, but I like his body language in take 2. And they would literally put them together. And I think the problem with the prequels is you never believe the people. There's where nobody sounds, the voices are all too even Sam Jackson doesn't even sound like, do you believe it's this boy? You're like, you would never talk like that. You hire Sam Jackson and you let him speak the way Sam Jackson speaks, but it's the dialogue is throughout those movies. There's no easy, like when Harrison Ford would say, I don't know, do you think a princess and a guy like me? No. You believe that exchange is happening because they sound like real people, even though the language,
I commend him for always looking, forward with technology, but sometimes you just got to step back and go, it's simple, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah. And the actors don't know where they are. When you have an actor standing out in the sand of Tunisia, it's like, okay, we're really in the desert here. I get it. And I understand how because there was no reality when you're on a set and it's all green screen, you're looking around, unless you're an accomplished theater actor that you understand how to play. Cause that's basically essentially what they were doing. It's really hard to get there. And when everybody's there all the time, everybody's on, and they're not, you have a director that's not the greatest at working with actors, you end up, and even the way people move, like when you're watching the people on Geonosis take out their lightsabers and stuff, they're not moving as if there's real urgency there. You're looking at all these people, they're not like taking these battle stances, they're pulling out their lightsabers, and that's like all they're doing. And it's like, but that's a whole, you like when you get into a stance like this with a lightsaber, you needed to have training. You needed to have people. It's not just how to use the lightsabers, but it's like people who don't know how to use guns in movies, which drives me crazy. Like to hold a pistol, you don't hold a pistol like this. You're not like this. It's anybody that's had, it's a two-handed operation. And that's why when you watch like Michael Mann movies, he gets everybody knows how to use guns in his films. And especially like when you see people walk in and clear rooms, and the way people hold like machine guns, the way people hold larger weapons, they're not like, yeah, man, it's not like that. That's like a last resort when you're going down in flames. You got to have the more like this kind of a thing, but I just can't stand. And it seems to me like the prequel trilogies, no one knows how to use a lightsaber because they don't have the right body language, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
They needed military training. They needed somebody from the military to come in and train them in the ways of using weapons, but apply them to using a lightsaber. and just at least give people that body language,
Right.
like John Wick has.
Yeah.
You know,
the next thing I got too, this was kind of with your new audio drama. I've been reading a lot of I'm on the second Marlowe book, so I kind of like those 1930s 40s detectives, and so I ended up getting this first 3 books of the Mickey Spillane, Mike Hammer. I know it's not the same as the audio drama, but
no, but is that actually written by Mickey Spillane?
Yes,
yeah,
it's the very first 3.
The
The introduction is by Max Allan Collins, but
Yeah.
it's the original 3 from. So I'll probably read those all in order. I don't know if you have to read them in order, but whatever. So that was kind of cool, but just, you kind of got me looking at that. And then the last thing I got a Lone Ranger omnibus by John Cassidy or whatever.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, kind of cool. And then I was going to say too, I have your show, your physical media show on Sunday there. I have that on a lot, just kind of in the background. My wife was listening to it the other day, and I think you have a new fan, and someone she's like, you need to start buying some of that stuff because I have a feeling a lot of it's going away, And
ooh, I like your wife.
Yeah. And what was interesting was Chris Gore actually was mentioning it earlier this week, and I had seen it that on Max that they finally put a little thing for Blazing Saddles, and at the beginning, and I think a lot of people are like, who cares? It's 20 seconds of them saying, hey, you need to be careful with. But to me, it's like you have this, when someone says that at the start of the movie, even if you're not trying to, now something is in your head. Okay, you're going to look at the movie differently instead of being able to watch the movie and understand the subtleties of what was actually they're trying to get across in the movie in the first place.
Oh,
it's like they're dumbing it down. Like, you're stupid. You're not smart enough to understand that this movie is actually making fun of how stupid we were. Yeah.
Well, I can't. We live in a world of horrible human behavior from one person to another. And we're worried in the United States about offending people because of satire from the 70s.
Yeah.
Like, as if somebody's going to be hurt by this.
Yeah.
Words or violence. I was offended. I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
I just watched or listened to a radio show, and they were talking about because of what's going on in the Middle East right now, they were talking about the origins of the Houthi, and it was very interesting. And they were speaking of, I think it was 2015-16, the final Jews from Yemen were left, and they've been there for 3,500 years. And
they were expelled from the Arab world.
And I'm sitting there going, all these people complaining about this stuff that's going on in Israel and whatever. It's like, have you seen how many Jews are getting expelled from all these other places?
1 million Jews were expelled from the Arab world in the 20th century.
And I'm sitting there
from every Arab country.
I have no skin in this game. But I'm looking at it going, if you look at it logically and historically, I have no idea where people are coming from with some of that stuff.
Because they're stupid and they don't know. And you know what? I got dinged because I said, hey, why don't you look at the Arab accomplishments as opposed to what Israel has created from scratch?
Yeah, and I don't want to look at that. In trouble with politics right now.
People got pissed at me. They're like, "You're a racist." I'm like, "How is that racist?"
I'm a
culturalist.
Yeah.
But you've got a culture that was captured in the 14th century by fundamentalism, where a culture. I mean, Islamic culture gave us science, the very basis of our mathematics, and then they were captured by fundamentalism in the 14th century. This is not a racial thing. It's not Semitic peoples are Semitic peoples, and it's like they got captured by religious ideology, and to this day, we're fighting the same religious ideology. Honor killings, acid in faces, all that stuff. And when you ask yourself, what technological advancements have you brought to the modern age? If there was no oil in the Middle East, I mean, I'll take Israel any day of the week and twice on Sunday. And, and it's nothing to do with racism. It's, what do you believe in? What are you going to do? What are you going to add to the human race? How are you going to, Now Blazing Saddles is something we can't look at. I mean, Jesus Christ. Drives me nuts. Now watch, half the people are going to turn this off right now. But it's true. I mean, I've been to Israel.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, Tel Aviv is a party town. I'd much rather go there than to Dubai. Just saying. I'd move to Tel Aviv. And then Madonna moved there and made everything expensive. So can't do that anymore.
We've got a comment here from Raging Dino saying he's been a member for a month. Rob, why is Disney trying to reboot Pirates of the Caribbean? Sorry, but that's going to bomb. No Captain Jack Sparrow, no franchise.
Again, because the thing is, they would much rather take the Pirates of the Caribbean is not Johnny Depp. Pirates of the Caribbean is an IP that's based on their ride at Disneyland and Disney World. And I totally get it. I totally understand why they would want to do that. Now, I look, when they made Ocean's 8 with Sandra Bullock and it was an all-female crew, you know, the cast of, I thought that wasn't a bad movie. You know, the idea of that, but the character of Johnny Depp is so indelible. But I still think if you wanted to make an all-female, because it's called Pirates of the Caribbean, it's not called Jack Sparrow. So I could see a bunch of female pirates being fun if it was well done and well directed and well acted. I think a movie can be made that's good. I do believe that, but it won't be, because the impulse, the idea behind what they're trying to do is wrong-headed from the get-go. I think. If somebody came to them, if you had a filmmaker, like if Karen Kusama, who made The Invitation, who made Girl Fight, but she also made Destroyer with Nicole Kidman. Now, if you've ever seen Destroyer with Nicole Kidman, it's a cop story where she plays an undercover cop. That movie is it's not fun to watch. It's hardcore. But if you watch that, if Karen Kusama or Catherine Bigelow wanted to make a Pirates of the Caribbean movie and they had an idea and they'd work with a screenwriter, I'd be like, I'm on board. But it was a corporate decision to go, we're going to make a female Pirates of the Caribbean movie. And then they're going to make it based on DEI initiatives or whatever. You'll have a multi-ethnic cast of pirates. You know, have every different kind and okay. And it won't come from a genuine place. But if you had a real filmmaker that said, I have an idea, like Ryan Coogler. Ryan Coogler had an idea to make a Rocky spinoff in Creed. That's what they want to find. If you want to find IP and extend it, go out and find those filmmakers that love the IP and give them a shot. But they're not doing that. They're making these weird corporate business decisions, looking at a spreadsheet going, okay, we're going to do this, which is fine. But is it going to be good?
Yeah.
You want passionate filmmakers. If you're going to roll the dice and spend $150 or $200 million making a Pirates of the Caribbean movie, wouldn't you want a filmmaker that's making it their life's ambition to get this movie to be great?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Well, maybe Alon has insights into that.
What's up,
How
dude?
you doing, Alon? Welcome.
I got some insights into the previous conversation.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
yeah.
Came unannounced.
I was catching some flack on Twitter. Catching some flack.
You gotta ruffle those spinners.
Yeah.
Anyway, how's it going?
It's going well. How are things with you? How are things in your situation?
More of the same. Much more of the same.
Yeah.
Um,
Although I'm seeing the tide starting to turn a bit here in the United States, in terms of people's opinions aren't so vehemently supporting terrorism anymore.
I could say I see both ends of that stick. I can see like both voices start being more vocal. I will say like that. I'll say it like that. But yeah, on that note, I want to talk about something.
Yes.
Something else.
What video games are you playing now?
Oh wow, I've been on a streak of like 2 weeks of playing mostly like all Pokemon games.
Oh, right, that's right.
Which is great. I've been having so much fun, and I've started even like I'm not sure that I'm able to say that, but I started modifying like some Pokemon ROMs to make like my own Pokemon adventure, which is cool. Yeah, it's a very, very hardcore experience, and it's
If you do that,
old,
can you share that with other gamers if you're making those mods, or would you get in trouble?
Yes, you can. You can share it. Sometimes you get takedown notices, and then like you need to act upon them. But there are like community-based endeavors that are thriving. I would say like that.
Okay, makes sense.
So it's cool. There are like the community developed tools to help you do that. It's like a very interesting like niche. I've been like on a row of like 2 days of getting into the bits and bytes of like the old Pokemon games and understanding how it works and how to modify it. It's very cool.
Right.
To like a software engineer at least.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun. I made a mistake today.
Alon, what do you make of the Pal World game that everybody's talking about?
Yeah, everybody's talking about. I haven't actually tried it myself. It just made me more nostalgic into like playing Pokemon. So I saw all the hype. I know that everyone's playing it, but it made me crave Pokemon, not Pal World. So I dove into that, which I thoroughly enjoy right now. I did the mistake of turning on Disney Plus and seeing that the Marvels was on. Haven't seen it in theaters. I made it through about a third of the movie.
Okay,
it was awful.
I gotta ask you, because I did this yesterday. I was watching it. Since you hadn't seen it though, right?
Never. Yeah.
So what did you think about what did you hate about the movie? Like, what are some of the things that made you want to turn it off?
Well, it kind of was like I gotta say, first of all, before we get into that, I want to send wishes to Irene, and it was shocking to hear, and I'm glad that she's getting better and better. But I wanted to say about the Marvels, it just felt as if each scene was getting stupider and stupider, and I was actually surprised because like the characters that I I would say liked the most, I didn't like any of them, like were the Khan family, which I watched Miss Marvel. I didn't really like them, but I kind of liked her mom.
I like the family. I thought that was a good dynamic.
She had a couple of funny lines. She had the only funny like quips in the movie. I didn't laugh a single time from any of the other jokes. I think what they did with Nick Fury is awful. And Captain Marvel is probably my least favorite MCU character at the moment. Not for all of the like feminist
sure,
but it's just there's nothing to like there. Anyway, so I made it through I didn't finish Echo. I made it through one episode, and which was awful also. I didn't finish What If. So I am kind of like seeing a trend here, which is not great.
No.
But I have my hopes high for Deadpool, which is why I'm excited about tomorrow. Which I think that there's a trailer coming or a teaser coming.
I share your enthusiasm for I think Deadpool, because it has a different creative team that they're bringing over. I mean, you got the same writers working with Ryan Reynolds and Sean Levy. You brought in Hugh Jackman. I think that they are that creative team we've seen, like, whether it was the Atom Project or whether it was Free Guy, they've done stuff together, and I think they know what they.
Them.
I trust them too, and I know that they're doing. I've heard that they're doing some, let's just call it fan service, that's going to very, very much succeed in terms of what they're trying to do.
Hopefully, I mean, I've been actively avoiding the spoilers.
Oh, nobody knows. This is a movie that I think has really gone spoiler free. So I don't think anybody knows.
Deadpool?
Yeah. I don't think.
Oh.
I don't think anybody really know. I haven't read any spoilers that I think
there's so many on Twitter and online. Just avoid them. Try to.
I don't know if people have been getting it right.
Away.
I think a lot of it's made up.
No, there's photos. There's stuff. I don't know. I haven't seen them. I've been told by people, but I've been actively avoiding it. It's muted on Twitter for me. And I can't wait until I see what they're willing to show us tomorrow. Yeah. And then once that trailer is out and I see it, I'm not gonna watch any other trailers.
Yeah, I agree. I think though that there's so much riding on this movie. I mean, this really is a make or break movie for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, even though it's not really a Marvel movie. I mean, it is, but
well, it is.
It is. And I mean, we're not going to get another Marvel movie until deep into 2025.
Yeah, I'm just glad that they're able to make the Deadpool break the Marvel Cinematic Universe or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, they can do whatever. And what's funny is they can do whatever they want, I think. And it's going to be I think it's going to be, I consider it a Fox X-Men movie.
For sure.
And it's going
one.
Yeah, it's going to be
the last one.
Truly the last one that's going to be the transition into, because there's one joke in particular that I've heard in the movie that I just want to sit with an audience and watch it play out, because it's going to be a moment. I'm not going to even hint what it is, but it's going to be a moment where the audience is going to freak the fuck out. They're going to applaud and scream and yell, and it's such a simple bit.
Are you really doing that? There's jokes in this movie?
There are jokes. Yeah, I would say I don't know if this isn't so much as a joke. I would call it a misdirect. It's a misdirect. Something comes out and you think it's one thing, but it's really not. It's something else. And when I heard this, when it was told to me, I laughed out loud. I go, boy, I really hope they do that, because that would put a smile on everybody's face. And it works. It's not a, see, the problem that the only thing that I fear about this movie is that it could be just full of cameos and wackiness to be wacky. Whereas I think the Deadpool movies have really done a good job avoiding that. And if they do, like when they bring in X-Force, all of X-Force dies, they parachute down onto the, I thought that was hilarious. And I really hope, like showing Brad Pitt show up, like that was a cameo, but that was hilarious. And I really hope that the movie keeps that spirit alive, because the first Deadpool does a great job of telling a great story, but also being wacky. And I hope that Deadpool 3 doesn't go too far. I want it to be like the Rocky 3 of Deadpool movies. If that makes any sense.
More this Rocky 3 than the Superman 3 or the
Last Crusade. Yes, a movie that everybody loves that isn't. It could be, Rocky 3 could have been really, really stupid.
Yeah,
but even showing Hulk Hogan and Rocky fighting, the way they played it out, it worked, and it was funny, and it was amusing, and it made sense. Yeah. And then Clubber Lang was legitimately a formidable, larger-than-life villain, but they kept him grounded.
Right.
And it was still the fight. There's a real threat there, so I hope they keep doing it.
Rob, I think we've come to that time when we say goodbye to our friends on YouTube. But
are we caught up on super chats and everything?
We are caught up on super chats. Let me just double check. I'm sorry, because my second monitor is not cooperating. I am having a little bit of trouble going back and forth, but no, it looks like we're good there. So
we're good. Okay, cool.
Yep. So we want to thank everybody for your participation and for joining us here today. Rob, any upcoming shows? We have a physical media show coming up tomorrow.
Yeah, and I'm going to do I'll do a observations later today because I want to delve into this Amazon storytelling DEI business, which is ridiculous.
All right. Well, we're gonna get that op-ed from Rob in a little bit later today. But for those of you watching us on YouTube, we thank you for joining us. For those of you in the member chat, the chat continues. So don't lose your place in the queue there. We will stay here until you guys are done. So have a good rest of your weekend, everybody on YouTube. Rob, any last words for our viewers?
One land, one king. that's
a
little Excalibur for you.
No,
I mean, I hope everybody enjoys the Super Bowl, and you know what? Right. I would encourage everybody to really take part in the political process this year. Mm-hmm. America really needs everybody to take their citizenship, not take it for granted, and really get involved, and go out and vote in those primaries and vote in your local elections, and really show that Americans don't take their republic for granted.
Right.
Exercise your citizenship.
Exercise your right to vote. All right, everybody. With that, we will see our YouTube friends later, and we will continue the chat on Zoom. Take care, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Thanks for being here.